With Saturday night's spectacular knockout win against Frank Martin, did Tank Davis do enough to now be the current face of boxing? But more importantly, where does this superstar rank in the current pound for pound list, and what's next for him? Me and the Maniac are going to break that down, plus, we're going to do a brief recap of Saturday night's fights starting now. What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Hangout Spot, where you already know it's Real Talk Sports Talk, live from my man cave. It's your man Johnny, and I am here with
the Maniac.
What's going on, my brother? It's a pleasure to have you back. I needed to get you back here because last week we talked about this Saturday night's fight cards on the Zone, on Amazon Prime pay-per-view, and we did a whole preview of all the fights. And Saturday night didn't disappoint. There were a lot of upsets. But first and foremost, before we get in some of the other fights that I want to touch on real quick, let's get into the Tank Davis fight, the main event on PBC, Amazon Prime pay-per-view. This was the third card that they put together. And Tank Davis, in spectacular fashion, wins by knockout in the 8th round over Frank the Ghost Martin in a fight. And you know, I said this last week, Maniac, I thought it was going to be a snooze fest, but I was pleasantly surprised. I mean, Frank came out to fight. He was cooking in the first few rounds, but just like Tank usually does in typical Tank fashion, he's going to strike like a cobra. And there's another thing that I want to touch on, because you said something last week that now made sense to me while I was watching that fight Saturday night. I thought because of the counterpunching styles that, again, it wasn't going to be an action-packed fight. But you said that Tank usually fights accordingly to the style of his opponent, meaning if he feels that his opponent is going to obviously hurt him, he may sit back a little bit and he may be the counterpuncher in the fight. When he has an opponent in front of him that he doesn't feel that's going to hurt him, he may step to him like he was doing to Frank Martin, walking him down, and then eventually applying that mental and physical pressure. And then, boom, again, he struck like a cobra. So I got to give you props for that. But anyhow, what did you make of Tank's performance, man? I mean, we all thought that he was going to win the fight. I think that you had thought it was going to go to decision.
Yeah.
I picked Tank to win by late round knockout. But man, oh man, like you say, man, I mean, just a spectacular finish, man. You know, what's your thoughts on
Yeah,
Tank?
man. Listen. Yeah, definitely, man. Man, oh man. You know, it's when you look at it, it wasn't a spectacular performance. It was a spectacular knockout, right? Because leading up to the fight, leading up to that knockout in that round, right? That was on the 8th round. Going into there, I had it definitely no less than 4-3 Frank Martin, right? Possibly 5-2 Frank Martin. And going into the 8th, plus he was winning the 8th before he got stopped, right? But we've seen this with it's the same story with Tank again. He's in it. We've seen Barrios box his ears off before Tank. He put his foot on the gas and he says, okay, I downloaded enough. I'm gonna get to this guy. We seen same thing with Leo Santa Cruz, where he decided he was gonna bang with him. But you know, Santa Cruz is one of the better boxers in boxing. He was giving Tank the work, but it was just a matter of time. Tank was setting him up. He knew, okay, he want to punch with me. I'm gonna counter him with an uppercut. Same thing what Tank did here with Frank Martin. He knew, right? Like you said, he applied that mental pressure, that mental coming forward. And you know, Martin used his legs well. But it starts to get to you as a fighter, Johnny. You start to say, damn, bro, this guy don't stop. Like, yo, stop chasing me. And, you know, Gervonta understands that he knows what he's doing in there. And also he does not rush. Gervonta takes his time. He's not in there. You don't see him wasting punches. You don't see him, overthrowing punches. He's just a fighter that understands, like, okay, yeah, you got me, but I'm gonna get to you. That's the thing. There's gonna come a time in the fight when Gervonta, I don't care who he fights, whether it be Shakur, Tio, whoever he fights moving forward, he's gonna get to you, Johnny. And then you have to say at this point, can I survive what he's gonna throw to me, or I'm not? And as we've seen, Pitbull's like the last fighter to go the distance, like of his last 8-9 opponents, because once Tank hits you, bro, it's over, man. The dude, to me, again, is just my opinion. With Deontay Wilder pretty much out of boxing, he is the hardest puncher in boxing and the most dangerous.
I don't disagree. Definitely at 135.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's anybody without a question
Oh yeah.
that can hit harder than him at 135. But for me with Tank, and you're right, it was more of a spectacular finish. I get that. But that's the whole aura of Tank and the excitement around him and his events. You remember when Tyson fought, everybody knew more than likely he was going to blast his opponent out, but it was just an event. Everybody looked forward to it, right? So I don't think it's far-fetched to say that Tank is the most exciting fighter in boxing right now, but if you really look at him, I'm impressed. I mean, he passes the eye test to me, man. A lot of people criticize him because of his resume, because at his age, he hasn't unified any titles yet. He hasn't fought the bigger names. I get that. Fair criticism. But if you look at it and you really know boxing maniacs, and tell me if I'm wrong, this dude is a complete fighter. Barring defense, I wouldn't say he's the most technically sound defensive fighter like a Floyd or a Shakur, but how many boxers are?
Yeah.
But but he does everything else well. He moves well, he can punch, he can box, he can counterpunch. Um, he's fast. That uppercut is crazy vicious, and fast. And like I said earlier, what sets him apart is his ability to be able to adapt to his opponent's style. That's special. And if people don't see that, man, am I wrong?
No, everything you said was 100% spot on, right? He does the resume, right? You gotta, as we look as fans, it's like, damn, Tank. And this is what bothers me, is because just like you said, the eye test. Tank, it don't matter, like I said, whether he fights Shakur, whether he fights Teal, he will be the favorite in that fight. And deservedly so, right? Because I'm going to pick Tank in those fights. Now, I know those, to me, from 135 to 140 is what I'm talking about. To me, those are the only two fighters that have a great chance to beating him. Plus, let's also not forget Pitbull Cruz, who's also a fighter who took Tank, to the distance. Now, we know it all, but he broke his hand, or he hurt his hand. Yeah, he hit Pitbull in the head, and he had to fight with one hand. But nonetheless, when you look at Tank, man, you can see that he is a special fighter, right? Yes, his resume does come into question, and like you said, deservedly so. We got to call it like it is, right? Let's talk about it. Who he hasn't fought an A-side fighter yet, right? Like a fighter, like a Shakur, like a Tio, but when Tank is in there, he's taking care of business, right? He's doing what he has to do, and he's doing it in dominant fashion. He's putting you out. He's not playing with you. And that's what people want, Johnny. People want that excitement. Like you said, Mike Tyson, the perfect example. Hey, like I said, the first time you got me on the show, when I was like, oh, Mike Tyson, your grandmother knew who Mike Tyson was. Your aunt didn't even know English. Ay, va a pelear. Oh, yo quiero ver esa pelea. So Tank is on the brink of that. Like, he's a fighter that people don't watch boxing, but if they know he's fighting, I'm going to watch, right? Because I know what he brings. He's exciting and he's dangerous. And that is great for the sport because we do need that, right? But I would like to see Tank now moving forward, Johnny, because you know he's kind of up there in age as well, and start to say, okay, I want the best of the best. Who's the best in my division? Shakur? Let's go, Shakur. Win your fight July 6th, and let's get to the table. And after you, I'm going to go to 140 because there won't be nothing for me here at 135. And I want to speak to T.O. or I want to speak to Pitbull again. But we are here in Lomachenko. So I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I was gonna get to that. To be honest with you, yeah, I'm gonna watch that fight.
Yeah,
I think that um I think this fight, if it's made, it's like buying, an expired loaf of bread. I mean, I mean that fight should have happened 5 years ago when
easily.
when Lomachenko was one of the top fighters in the world pound for pound, and he was Nomaschenko in the Matrix. I mean, he's still a formidable opponent. We've seen that. We've seen what he did against Devin. Um, and we've seen what he did obviously, in his last fight. But I mean, he's at that age where I don't know, man. I don't know if he's gonna be able to withstand that type of power, that's coming back. And we all know that Lomachenko is a smaller 135. He's more of a 130. Tank is a heavy, pure 135 pounder that hits like a welterweight.
Easily.
So I think it'll definitely be Tank's toughest test to date, his toughest fight, because he's fighting somebody that again has high ring IQ, can move in the ring, can provide different angles. Um, we haven't seen him fight that type of guy. But if I take anything away from Frank Martin's performance, again, I think it'll be a competitive fight. I just don't see how, what you said earlier, eventually Tank strikes. How is Lomachenko at this age, at this point in his career? There's a lot of miles in the tire, especially from an amateur standpoint. How is he going to withstand that power? I don't see it. I think that fight ends in a late round knockout. Lomachenko has been hit a lot more often in his last few fights. So realistically, I'll watch it. It's not high on my priority list like you and anybody else. I think the only guy that has a chance, and I think a realistic chance to beat him based on his ability and his defense and the way he moves in the ring, is Shakur Stevenson. That's the fight that we all want to see. That's the fight that we all need to see. Now, whether it happens next, I doubt it. And that's the disappointing part about Tank, because what I was going to ask you before we got into future opponents is, when Tank fights, like you said, it's more of an event. I mean, this guy brings out the celebrities, he brings out the boxers. Has he taken over as a new face of boxing, in your opinion?
So
Barring resume.
yeah, so this is a subjective thing, right? When we talk about the face of boxing, because there's no criteria like there is, like when you judging around, you judge around by effective aggressiveness, a ring IQ, clean punching, defense. There's a criteria in place, like when you judging around. Now, when it comes to the face of boxing, there's really no criteria, right? But I kind of came up with a couple of things, right? To me, what I see. I think Tank is the most popular fighter, right? But I
Mhm.
think Canelo is the face of boxing. I think he's more of a global, right? He's more known all over, opposed to a Tank, right? Because I think when we talk about the face of boxing, what are we talking about, right? We're talking about the guy that whenever he fights, everyone knows, right? But there's also got to be something behind that. And I say this, your resume, right? That's one. And I know you said barring resume, but I'm just speaking in general, right?
Mhm.
Your resume, um, your pay-per-view numbers, right? Your numbers got to speak for itself, right? And of course, man, longevity. How long you've been doing this for? You can't be, to me, you can't be the face of boxing for 2 years. You might be on a 2 year, right? It's like I like to use analogies, basketball, right? We know LeBron is the best player in basketball, but let's say KD just had his last 2 years, he's just been a better player in those last 2 years. Does that make him the best player in the NBA? No, because there's more behind that. So the same thing with Canelo. I just think those are the main things, right? Resume, longevity, consistency, and pay-per-view numbers. And I think when you add all those up, that oversees Tank. But Tank, to me, is the most popular. He's the most on-demand fighter. People want to see Tank, 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 especially in North America. I think it's not even up for debate. I think in North America, Tank is the face in North America. Canelo's the face of boxing in its entirety. So, and again, based on what I see, and numbers don't lie, right? You know that saying, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. So that's that. If Tank just continues to do what he's been doing, Johnny, and now fighting these top fighters and beating them, because we understand you're not going to knock all your opponents out. As deadly as Tank is, it's going to come, they're going to fight where he's not going to knock his opponent. That's fine. As long as he wins, he could beat you without knocking you out. Then it's like, he'll go there, fight Shakur, beat Shakur definitively. It's like, yo, fights a Tio, beats Tio definitively, bro. Now he's really pushing down that door as, I'm the man of boxing. I'm number one. I'm the face. When you think about boxing, it's me. So that's my answer. Canelo's the face, but Tank is the most popular fighter, man, right now, and especially here in North America.
That's what's up. I love the way you broke that down. And you're right. It's very subjective. You ask 10 different people, you probably get 9 different answers. Talking about subjective, another topic that is at a very an extremely opinionated topic is the pound for pound list.
Oh
I mean, if you ask 100 people who their top 10 is, you'll probably get 95 different answers, which is the beauty of boxing, right? Because we all see it differently. I personally don't think there's a question that Tank belongs on the top 10 pound for pound list.
definitely.
But where do you have him if you were to put him?
Wow, that's definitely, it's tough because even for me, right? I like just to put dudes on the list, not in no particular order, but being that you told me, you asking me, where would I put him, right? Let's just go through it, right? Me, I've had Crawford since he beat Spence. I had him number one. But you look at what Alexander Usyk has done and his consistency of fighting, it's easy to say, yo, listen, Usyk is arguably the number one fighter in boxing. It's debatable. Again, if you tell me you got Usyk number one, yo, I could see that. Then we got to put Inoue, right? And the reason why I put these guys in front of Tank is that, with the exception of Crawford, the Inoue and Usyk has been more consistent, right? They fighting, and these guys is winning undisputed belts, right? So these guys, they fighting champions, right? Not saying that, that means that they the best, because a lot of champions are not really that good. For some, that's just the era we in. Tank is not doing that, right? It would have been nice if Frank Martin had a belt, but he didn't. So I'm gonna put him, just based off the eye, I will put him number 4, right? I could say Crawford, Inoue, Usyk, and then Tank. And he could be higher on that list if he just was to beat guys that we say, yo, we want you in there with. Because at least I know Inoue, he cleaned his division. He cleaned out 2 divisions. Usyk, he cleaned out 2 divisions. Crawford, he cleaned out 2 divisions. All 3 of those fighters were undisputed in multiple divisions. Multiple. Not 1, 2, in the 4-belt era. All 3 of those fighters. So they have to be in front of Tank as far as because of what they've done, what they have accomplished. But if we're talking about, now we comparing them, if they were all in the same weight class, god damn, that'd be interesting. Right? Like,
Absolutely.
because Tank matches up well against every single one of them.
Mhm.
If they were in the same weight class again, which we know they're not, and they will never fight each other. So That's that. But that's what I'll say, Johnny. I'll put him number 4. Not that I'm big on rating them or he's number 1. Because
Yeah,
like you said, you ask 10 people, you'll probably get 10 different answers. But I don't think people will argue those being the top 4. However order you have it, I think most people will have it very similar there. They top 4.
absolutely. Canelo's up there as well.
Yes.
I would put Canelo over Tank
Oh,
because obviously he's
yeah.
won in multiple divisions as well. But again, everybody sees the pound for pound list differently. Um, Tank is definitely 5'6", in my opinion. There's an art. And again, it's all opinionated, man. Ranking them, in my opinion, really doesn't make a difference as long as realistically, a fan could say he's in the top 10, and I think he should be. Realistically, I think he should be. But it'd be interesting. Another guy that I'd love for him to fight is Teofimo. I know you mentioned Teofimo a couple of times. Again, I know there's a weight disparity there. Teo's fighting at 140. I don't know if Tank will move up to 140. I don't know if Teo would want to fight him at a catch weight. I'm not sure. Money talks, but if it hasn't happened yet, I don't think that it'll happen anytime soon. It looks like Teo, who's fighting in a couple of weeks in Miami, is looking to win that fight and possibly go after a Crawford fight. Not sure if that makes any sense, but
Yeah.
I give him credit. He's trying to be great. But either way, Tank is a top draw. It'd be interesting to see what happens with him next. Speaking about top draws, let's touch on, some of the other fights that occurred on Saturday night, starting with the co-main event. The Mexican monster, David Benavidez, in his first appearance at light heavyweight, 175 pounds, against Alexander Vadzik, a guy coming into this fight that just lost one fight against Arthur Beterbiev. And let me tell you something. I mean, I think we both predicted that Benavidez would win this fight on the scorecards.
Yeah.
I predicted that, yeah, I didn't trust that he'd have that type of power at 175, so I wasn't saying knockout, but I did say that I was pretty sure that he'd come in as the faster guy. And man, did he. I mean, the blistering hand speed was there. Again, a lot of people are going to criticize the performance because he didn't knock Vadzik out or realistically hurt him, but he was touching him up, and he was doing what he needed to do, especially in the early parts of the round. He was letting his hands go. He was hit, he was nailing Vadzik with jabs, the body shots, the crisp body shots. And then it looked like he gassed out a little bit towards the end. I don't know if it was because of the weight, obviously. Give Vadzik a lot of credit. It looks like he came in tremendous shape.
Yeah.
And he fought a valiant fight, especially at the end. But Benavidez wins by unanimous decision. What do you make out of that performance, number one? And then number two, what do you think happens next? Because I know that after the fight, again, people aren't going to let this Canelo thing go. He isn't letting this Canelo thing go. So do you think that based on that performance, he should stay at 175 and continue to fill out and possibly look at the big names there, or move back down to 168 and continue to chase Canelo around?
So yeah, man. So let's start, like you said, let's start with the performance. Dominating performance by Benavidez. Yes, he was the faster fighter. His body work was just tremendous.
Insane.
Wow. It was just beautiful. His combination punching. Again, A1. The guy did everything he did at 168, with the exception of stopping his opponent or even hurting his opponent. Now, I'll say this. There are two fighters right off the bat at 175, right? We have Bevo, we have Beterbiev. I'm just looking, the eye. I said, man, Benavidez is going to have trouble with those guys because they more skill, they punch harder, right? Maybe not Bevo, but Beterbiev for sure. And it's like, all right, David, if you can't hurt these fighters, that means one, your motor better be high because you're going to go 12 rounds with these bigger fighters who could take your punch now, right? And let's be clear too. Gosvick wasn't letting his hands go as much, and he did swell up David's left side, right? So Bevo, he's a boxer. He's going to let his hands go more. Beterbiev, you already know, he's just a grizzly bear. So I just look at those two in particular. And let's not forget, we got a Cuban guy by the name of David Morrell up there, right? So he, I haven't seen him. He hasn't fought at 175 yet. He has a fight coming up. Let's see how he looks. But to me, those are the three potential fights for David Benavidez, man. And I think all three could give him trouble. And he could win those fights. I'm not sitting here and say, oh, no way David wins those fights. But if they don't respect him, Johnny, they like, this is the Mexican monster y'all talking about? No. And they start on the attack. It could get ugly for David up there against those opponents, right? And now the second question, should he go back to 168 and perhaps pursue an undisputed fight with Canelo? I say no. And this is the reason. That fluctuating from one weight class and back down. We know Benavidez is a big super middleweight. In fact, let's call it like it is. He was a weight bully at 168, but he was nice. So that was a deadly combination. Not only him being bigger than these guys, but he was just better too. So you add those two and you saw what was happening. And hence why I think Canelo said, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm not scared of this guy. But I just know if I lose to him, it might be ugly. And I'm not trying to lose ugly. No. Let me add 150. Oh, what he brings. He's going to say everything in the book. Because there's nothing, Johnny. And as I mentioned, nobody, they could say, this is the reason Canelo don't need to fight David Benavidez. There's no reason. I get it. He's his own boss, right? He could do what he wants to do. I know that part. But if you're going to tell me, then if Canelo's going to he fought Munguia. What did Munguia do at super middleweight to deserve a fight with Canelo? Nothing, zero. Benavidez was his mandatory, Johnny, for 3 years. 3 years, right? Is Benavidez an exciting fighter when he's in the ring, Johnny? Exactly.
Absolutely.
Is he a fan favorite? Does a lot of people come out to see him?
Absolutely.
So no one can say, oh, but he's boring. Oh, but he don't got fans. No one can say nothing. This is why this is a blatant duck. It's just clear as daylight. I'm not saying, people got to get out they fanatic sweaters. Stop it. Just call it like it is. Say, yo, listen, yeah, Canelo's my man, but right now he just don't want no parts of David. And I'd rather you say it like, yo, right now, I'll fight him when I'm ready. Just say something like that. But I'm going to say no, Johnny, because I think that up and down could really harm Benavidez, make him weak, and then Canelo go in there, cook his ass, and everybody will be like, you see? That's what y'all wanted? Y'all wanted this fight the whole time just to see that? And it's like, damn, David, you did it to yourself, brother. So, I mean, if he does it, so be it. But if I'm his team, I say, nah, bro, let's not do it. Let him come to 175 and fight us.
Nah, I feel you, man. I mean, good breakdown. Some really, really good points. And you're right. I mean, it's really not a wise idea, to go up and wait and go back down. But I mean, listen, it's not just coming from the fans and the media, man. It seems like every time this guy speaks, Canelo comes out of his mouth. Every time his dad speaks, I mean, they want that Canelo fight. And my heart, I want to see it too, man, to be honest with you, because I agree, man. I mean, listen, I like Canelo and I respect him, but, he's definitely ducking David Benavidez. And for the fans out there that are defending that shit, like, oh, well, at this point in his career, he's earned the right, to pick and choose who he fights. Stop it. Y'all ruining boxing, man. Y'all enabling this dude, man. Every time you say that, you enable this guy to continue to move that way. And more importantly, what's happening here is other fighters coming up are going to end up doing the same thing because they see Canelo got away with it. We got to stop enabling these fighters as fans, man. Real talk, man. These guys are supposed to be fighting the best. If you are a champion, an undisputed champion in a division, your job is to defend the titles against the top contenders. If not, relinquish the belts. Keep it moving. So it's not fair. So the frustrating part about me not seeing that fight because he's ducking David, I'm like, nah, I want to make that happen. I don't care. Just come down and wait. Make that happen because I would favor David. But you're right. It might not be a wise move. As far as staying at light heavyweight, I mean, you're right. I mean, those are the guys. They are true beasts in that division. Their natural weight is light heavyweight. The only thing that I will say is give David a couple more fights there because I think that he will fill out a lot better and maybe get a little bit stronger. Remember, this was his first fight at 175. Either way, it's going to be super interesting to see what happens next. I'm not going to go through the entire card because, to be honest with you, even though there was a couple of upsets, Elijah Garcia, oh my God. I mean, I don't even want to talk about that performance, Maniac. I mean, as much as we were looking forward to seeing this kid, I mean, I don't know. I mean, he should have just stood home. Maybe he thought he was home. What an uninspired and lazy and no sense of urgency performance. And I'm not taking away anything from Kyron Davis. He's a veteran. He came and he boxed Elijah Garcia's ears off. But man, listen, I said I wasn't even going to give this fight a minute, and I've probably gone a few seconds over. Disappointing. He's got to come back and be better. I don't think his career is over by any means, but he's got to be better. And then Gary Antoine Russell. I mean, that was a shocker. We both had this dude finishing Puello at some point in that fight, but give Puello a lot of credit. I mean, the counter punching, the combinations, just snapping Gary Russell's head back. I mean, in the second half of that fight, he gave him a lesson, regardless of whether the referee was trying to interfere in that fight or not. So kudos to Puello. They got that decision right. But I want to pivot over to Puerto Rico. The main event on DAZN from Manatí, Puerto Rico. You had Subriel Matias coming in as the 140-pound IBF champion against tough guy. We said it. Maniac, we said it. Liam Paro from Australia coming in, 24-0, 15 knockouts. We knew that he was going to come to fight. But I got to be honest, I wasn't expecting that. I mean, I predicted Matias to break him down and knock him out. And wow, what a shocker. I give Paro a lot of credit. Two things I did get right about this. I said that he was tough and that he would come to fight. And he did do that. But what do you think about that performance by that kid?
Listen, man. Again, we did mention this won't be a walk in the park for Matias, but yes, I did pick him to perhaps stop him as well. I believe I don't recall which round, but again, Subriel shot his own self in the foot. He wasn't outclassed. He wasn't dominated. It was more what Subriel didn't do, opposed to what Paro did. If you watch the fight again.
That's a good point. That's a good point, Maniac. I hate to cut you off, but I was going to ask you, do you think this was more of Subriel not being Subriel or Liam Paro just being Liam Paro and then some?
Yeah, it was. So Subriel, when you look at his last two fights before Paro, he fought Ergashev, right? And then he fought Ponce, right? Two undefeated fighters. And these were the same. He came out the same exact way. Like the first 3-4 rounds, he's getting cooked. But in those prior two fights, when he was touching these fighters, they couldn't take that power. They couldn't withstand that. Paro was able to do it. Now I know people, but he kept clinching. He kept clinching. Listen, it's boxing. You gotta adapt, bro. Stop using excuses. Oh, Johnny Johnny kept elbowing me down low. Things ain't gonna go your way, bro. Things ain't gonna go your way. Sometimes you gotta get out your comfort zone in order to get what you want. And Matias, he didn't. And now in the middle rounds, now he started kind of let his hands go. And when he did, Johnny, good things happened. But I also noticed in a lot of these rounds, he'll start it like with 15 seconds left. And it's like, oh, but that's it. Ding, 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 ding. Round is over. When if you would have started earlier, you would have had a chance to stop him. So Paro came in. Paro did exactly what I expected him to do. He came in. In fact, no, lies. I thought he was going to move more, box more. he kind of brought it to Matias. I'm like, oh, I don't think he want to do this. But by Matias not letting those hands go early and not taking advances, because he was right there in front of Matias. He moved at times, but not over the top. He gave away the first 4, 5, maybe 6 rounds. Definitely like the first 5. And that's what caused him. He won most of the middle rounds, Matias, but it just caused him. You're not going to win fights if you don't let your hands go. Matias, to me, he lost the fight. It wasn't that Paro was better. If he let his hands go, I'm 100% sure he beats Paro in the rematch. If he lets his hands go. If that's the same game plan he's going to come with, Johnny, come forward with the high guard and just get hit, boom, 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 7, 8 times. Because he let these fighters land these combinations on him. Bro, move your body. Move your head more. Make it a little harder for these dudes. You know, he's like, Matias got a chin. He proved that, right? He got stamina. He proved that. He got dog. He proved that. Bro, all you got to do is let your hands go. Problem solved. That's all it is. That's all it is. If he's not going to do that, Johnny, then these are the kind of fights he's going to lose, like in this fashion.
Well, again, at this point in his career, he's almost 32 years old. I'm not sure if he's 32 or not. Can an old dog develop new tricks? I mean, this is who he is. And, you know, we said it coming in. I mean, he's the hardest hitter at 140, but not the most skillful guy. And I don't know. I mean, listen, you know, you're right. There were a lot of things that he did not do right. I mean, giving away those early rounds, that's unexcusable, especially at home. I mean, the crowd was bananas. You know, they were itching, you know, for that opening bell to ring. And you know, for the life of me, I can't understand why a fighter like Matias is a slow starter if he's just going to be that guy that's going to walk you down and apply pressure. You can do that from the beginning, Maniac. You don't have to wait to the 5th round to do that. We've had fighters in the history of this sport that have done it at a high level from the beginning. Mike Tyson being one of them. I mean, I don't understand the slow start. But either way, man, I'm gonna give Liam credit and say he won this fight, man, because he said going in, I think we spoke about it last week. I told you I had heard an interview that he said that he was gonna go in there and win that fight. He was gonna go in the Lions Den and win that fight. And when I heard that, I think we both agreed when I told you that was gonna be a mistake, but it wasn't. I think it was a good game plan. I think he was in tremendous shape to be able to withstand that type of fight, mentally and physically. And I got to give Paro credit, man. He is one tough son of a gun, bro. And I think the future's bright for him. Matias, I don't know if he gets that rematch, but the future's bright for Liam. I mean, there's a lot of fights for him at 140. You know, you got Devin, who's still a title holder, T.O. What do you think happens next for both fighters?
Yeah, well, so Liam Paro, you know, he's a titleist. So now, you know, he get good fights. Does he get a unification match next, right? You mentioned Haney, Pitbull, and Tio are the belt holders at 140. Listen, man, a unification with either fighter I'll be okay with. Right. So, I mean, there's a lot of options at 140 for Liam Paro. I don't know. Maybe they try to get him his first defense in Australia, right? They might try to have him do that out there. I think he deserved it, right? He went into the Lions Den, like you said. Now let someone come and get it out my backyard. So it'll be nice for him to get one at home. And then as far as Matias go, he's in the loser bracket now. He's in the loser bracket. So you got the Pro Grace, right? Pro Grace just came off for loss. You got Gary Antoine Russell, who just came off for loss. So to me, these are the fights. If I'm Eddie Hearn, that I'm looking to put Subriel in if I can't get the rematch. If the rematch is a no-go, give me Pro Grace, give me Gary Antoine. And again, winnable fights for Matias. But if he has that mindset, like I said, where he waits for a minute in the round just to throw 2 punches, he's not going to win neither of those fights.
I agree. As always, my brother, it's a pleasure chopping it up with you. Let my people know where they can find you.
You already know, boys. Your boy, the Maniac. Yo, my runny nose, man, allergies. I'm all messed up, man. Catch me on Instagram, man. DTHEE_boxing_maniac. Once you there, man, you get access to all my other handles I have, and follow me there, plus the YouTube channel. So yeah, man, don't be afraid, man. You follow, I follow back. We talk boxing. This is what we do.
Absolutely. Y'all better do that. And for all my viewers, if you are new to watching my video, I don't know what you're waiting for. Smash that like button, hit that subscribe button, and let's get it popping here every single week. We got great content. Me and the Maniac are going to be doing this on the regular, and
Yes.
some live shows are going to be coming up soon as well. So make sure you're along for the ride. But as always, appreciate you coming on, Maniac. You know how
Thank you,
we
Johnny.
do.
You know you my brother, man. I'll never say no.
Thank you for your support. This is your boy Johnny with the Boxing Maniac signing out, and I'll talk to everybody soon.